Welcome, dear listener. It's time to unwind and let your mind drift. Find a cozy spot, adjust your blanket, and let each word guide you into a gentle calm. As you settle in, I'd love for you to like this video and share where you re-listening from in the comments. It is always wonderful to hear from you. Tonight, let us drift back through time to an age when words were carefully inscribed with soft, slender quills. Picture the gentle rustle of feathers, delicate plumes plucked from the wings of geese and swans. In a world of parchment and quiet study, these feathers were transformed into tools of thought and tenderness. The finest quills came from large birds, their feathers shaped by patient hands. There was no hurry here, no loud clang of machinery or harsh buzz of commerce. Instead, there was a calm, deliberate art in choosing each feather. They were selected for their firmness and flexibility and the gentle curve that would guide ink across a page. Farmers and monks alike would set aside the best feathers, laying them in the soft light of dawn. The downy barbs would be smoothed with careful fingers, the shafts inspected for strength. These were not mere objects, but the promise of words to come, of stories, prayers, and gentle observations. Imagine the faint crackle of straw underfoot, the cool air of the early morning, and the rustle of birds in distant hedges. The plucking of each feather was a quiet moment of respect for nature's offering. And so the story begins here, with the gentle, patient choosing of each quill's future. With the feathers gathered, the next stage was as quiet and meditative as the dawn. The shaping of the quill was a ritual of patience, a slow transformation. Each feather was trimmed, the barbs gently stripped away, leaving only the smooth shaft. A small knife, sharp but not hurried, was used to cut the tip of the feather to a point. This was a craft of the hands and the senses. The blade moved slowly, almost as if in rhythm with a heartbeat. There was no rush, only the soft scrape of steel on a hollow feather, the light smell of dampness in the air. The quill would be hardened next, a step to give it resilience and grace. Some would lay them in hot sand, warmed carefully by the hearth. Others would bake them in a low oven, the gentle heat coaxing strength from the fragile stem. As the quill hardened, it was as if the feather itself remembered its purpose, to glide across paper, to leave behind words and thoughts. This shaping was not merely a task, it was a pause in the day, a meditation of motion. Each motion was deliberate, a quiet dedication to the craft. In these soft movements the world fell away, leaving only the feather, the knife, and the hush of the room. A feather made ready, a tool of thought waiting to write. Now the quiet carving of the nib, a ritual that required the gentlest touch. The quill's tip was cut at a shallow angle, giving it the perfect slope to draw ink. The small knife pressed against the quill with measured care, the pressure light, the motion unhurried. A tiny slit was cut down the center of the tip, a path for ink to flow like a river across the page. This slit, though small, was the soul of the quill, an opening to the thoughts waiting in the inkwell. Those who carved the quill would test it on scraps of parchment, listening to the faint scratch as the point kissed the page. If the sound was too sharp, they would adjust, softening the curve, deepening the slit. Each stroke of the blade was an act of faith, a belief that from a single feather stories could emerge. The work was done in the hush of lamplight, perhaps with a cup of cool water nearby. The carver paused often, fingers resting on the feather as if to hear its silent wishes. When the nib was finally ready, the feather would be set aside to rest, its transformation complete, a small wonder of quiet devotion. With the quill prepared, the next step was to craft the ink. This too was a ritual of softness, a blending of earth and water. In the cool shade of medieval kitchens and workshops, soot and lampblack were gathered. These fine, powdery ashes were the darkness of the night, ready to be transformed into words. The powder was mixed with water, stirred gently in a small clay pot. Sometimes a pinch of honey or gum arabic was added to give the ink its delicate flow. The stirring was slow, circular motions that mirrored the gentle rhythms of thought. There was no hurry, only the patient swirl of black liquid. The scent of soot and sweetness rose faintly in the air, like a memory of wood smoke and meadows. Some recipes called for gall nuts, small knots of growth from oak trees. These were ground carefully, a stone pestle turning them to fine powder. Mixed with rainwater, they created a rich, dark ink, strong and lasting. The ink was poured into small pots, each one a tiny pool of possibility. It waited quietly in the flicker of candlelight, dark and calm. The world outside might be filled with noise, but here in the quiet of ink-making, there was only the soft promise of words to come. Now that ink and quill were ready, the final moment was the dipping, a gentle gesture of trust between the feather and the ink. The quill was dipped slowly, the tip sinking into the darkness of the pot. The ink clung to the slit like morning dew to grass, filling the hollow with the promise of flow. The first stroke on the page was tentative, a soft line, a test of balance and patience. The quill's nib offered resistance, a faint scratch that was music to the ear. If the ink was too thin, the writer would pause, stirring it gently. If too thick, a few drops of water would be added, each adjustment as careful as a whispered word. There was no rush here, no need for haste. The dipping was repeated, each time a moment of mindfulness. The rhythm of dipping and writing was like breathing, a pause, a motion, a pause. In this simple act, the quill became more than a tool. It was an extension of the mind, the bridge between thought and page. The quill's tip was cleaned often, dipped into water to keep it fresh. Each careful wipe with a soft cloth was a small act of devotion, an honoring of the gentle craft. At last, the moment of writing arrived. A gentle scratching that echoed softly in the quiet of a scriptorium or study. The page was smooth, the quill gliding like a soft breath across its surface. The nib scratch was a lullaby, each letter unfolding like a sigh. The writer leaned over the page, body still, breath even. The world outside, the bustle of the town, the chatter of birds, faded away. Here there was only the whisper of the quill, the slow unfolding of thought. In the medieval world, writing was not a task to be hurried. It was a meditation, a communion between hand and ink. The page filled slowly, each letter a small gift. There was pleasure in the shape of words, in the balance of lines and curves. The quill was dipped again and again, the motion gentle and deliberate. A pause to gather ink, a moment to steady the breath. And so with each stroke a story began to take form, one that asked nothing more than to be written softly, to be read in the hush of night. Between writing sessions, the quill was tended with care. It was not cast aside, but gently laid upon a soft cloth or a smooth wooden stand. If the tip grew dull, it was reshaped with the same slow, meditative cuts as before. The knife's edge was soft, almost caressing, as it renewed the nib's sharpness. The quill was never left to soak in ink for too long. Water and darkness could warp the delicate feather. Each writer knew this, treating their quill as a companion, not a mere tool. Some would polish the shaft with a bit of wax or oil, the light sheen a testament to the care given to small things. The feather's barbs might be smoothed with a fingertip, the gentle pressure like a promise to protect. This tending was a quiet act, a pause in the day's work. It was a moment to honor the simple beauty of the quill, a reminder that in the smallest gestures there could be deep comfort. The inkwell, too, was treated with gentle reverence. These small pots, crafted from clay or metal, held the very soul of the quill's voice. Each evening, before the day's writing began, the inkwell was carefully cleaned. Warm water was poured in slow circles, washing away the day's residue. The faint scent of earth and iron rose in the quiet air, a whisper of alchemy. A soft cloth, perhaps linen or worn cotton, was used to dry the inkwell's lip, wiping away any trace of hardened ink. Writers knew that a clean inkwell meant a clean mind. The inkwell was a tiny pool of possibility, and so it was tended with quiet devotion. When the ink was replenished, it was done in measured, patient pours. No splashes or spills, just the slow swirl of darkness filling the vessel's hollow heart. Some would hum softly as they worked, a lullaby for the ink and the feather. The world outside might be noisy, but here in the hush of the inkwell's care, there was only peace. The inkwell was placed upon a smooth wooden desk or stone ledge, a small island of calm. Its surface gleamed dully in the candlelight, a beacon of quiet purpose. The quill would dip once more, the inkwell offering its silent gift. In this shared ritual, the quill and the ink, There was a tender partnership, an understanding that words come best when given the patience of still water. The parchment that cradled each word was itself a small miracle of patience and care. Animal skins, transformed by the gentle work of tanners and parchmenters, became sheets as soft as breath. These sheets were smoothed with pumice and chalk, their surfaces polished to a gentle glow. Each one held the memory of the animal it had been, a soft murmur of life turned to words. Writers would pause to run their fingers over the parchment's grain, feeling the faint ripples that guided the quill's path. No two sheets were alike. Each bore its own character, its own subtle story in texture and scent. The parchment was carefully cut to size, edges trimmed with slow precision. It was a canvas of pale calm, waiting to be filled. In the quiet of the scriptorium or the study, the writer would smooth the parchment onto the desk, pressing out any soft creases with the warmth of the hand. This gentle preparation was as important as the shaping of the quill, and when the first word was written, it was as if the parchment itself exhaled, welcoming the flow of ink, the slow dance of letters. So much care, so much softness. The parchment, the quill, the ink, each a partner in the act of creation, each an invitation to linger and listen to the hush of history. In the cool, shadowed halls of the medieval scriptorium, the air was filled with the soft susurration of pens on parchment. Rows of wooden desks lit by flickering candles formed a gentle rhythm of movement and pause. The monks and scribes bent over their work, their breathing even, their hands moving in unhurried arcs. There was a hush in this place, a reverence for the written word that wrapped itself around every sigh and footstep. The scent of beeswax candles mingled with the faint tang of ink. Pages turned softly, a gentle rustle in the quiet. There was no loud talk here, no clatter of tools, only the patient scratching of quills, the occasional creak of a chair, the breath of a passing draft. Sometimes a scribe would pause, the quill resting gently in the crook of the hand, eyes closed for a moment, listening to the echoes of ancient words. Then the work would resume. No rush, no haste. The steady rhythm was almost like a heartbeat. Dip, right, dip, right. In this flow, the world outside disappeared. The scriptorium was a haven of slowness, a place where the mind could wander softly down each line. Each stroke of the quill was a prayer, each page a testament to the quiet power of words. As the day faded into dusk, the glow of candlelight wrapped the room in a gentle golden haze. The flickering flames cast slow, dancing shadows on the walls, a soft and steady pulse of light. The candles were made of beeswax or tallow, their scent sweet and earthy. Their light was not harsh but warm, like the embrace of a friend on a cold night. Writers leaned closer to the page, the light catching in the small pool of ink, making it glimmer like a dark jewel. The warm light made the feathers of the quill shimmer softly, each barbed edge outlined in a halo of quiet radiance. The white of the parchment glowed faintly, turning each letter into a small, luminous moment. There was something tender in this interplay of darkness and light. The gentle flicker of flame mirrored the flicker of thought, ideas softening in the glow, ready to be captured by the slow stroke of the quill. A sigh of wind might stir the flame, but the writer's hand moved steadily, unshaken. In the hush of candlelight there was a promise that words written slowly, with care, could illuminate even the darkest corners of the night. And so each evening the candles burned low and steady, a quiet companion to the gentle art of writing. There was a quiet solitude to this writing, a solitude that felt like peace, the writer alone with quill and ink, the world outside receding into whispers. In this calm space there was no need for chatter or noise, only the soft hush of breath, the faint sigh of parchment as it received each stroke. The solitude was not loneliness, but a gentle embrace, a space to let thoughts wander like clouds across a summer sky. Each letter formed was a small meditation, a moment to turn inward. The world beyond the window might be busy, full of clamor and change, but here in the soft circle of candlelight there was only the quiet pursuit of meaning. The gentle solitude was a balm, a way to soothe the mind and steady the heart. Each pause to dip the quill was a reminder that the best things in life often come slowly, one breath, one word at a time. And so the writer sat, alone but never empty, the gentle solitude holding each breath, each heartbeat, like a cherished secret. As the quill moved, it carried with it echoes of forgotten words, fragments of ancient prayers, songs whispered in the hush of evening, hopes carried in the quiet of the heart. Each stroke was a bridge to the past, the faint echo of voices long gone. The ink glided in slow curves, weaving together memories that still lingered in the soft grain of the parchment. The writer would pause to listen, to the silence, to the soft scratch of the quill, to the gentle hum of thought. These echoes were not loud, but they filled the air like a distant melody. In the stillness, the writer found comfort. Each word was a step back in time, a thread in the tapestry of quiet history. The echo of forgotten words was not a burden, but a gentle invitation to listen, to feel, to remember. And so the writing continued, each line a soft footstep into the past, each word a promise to keep the old stories alive. When at last the final word was written, there was no fanfare or applause, only a soft sigh of satisfaction. The page was filled with gentle care, each letter a testament to patience. The quill was laid aside, its feather a quiet witness to the journey. The ink dried slowly, the faint shine of wetness fading into permanence. The writer would sit back, eyes resting on the page, breathing in the soft scent of ink and parchment. There was no need to rush to the next task. The slow gift of completion was its own reward. The candles burned lower, the shadows grew longer, but there was a warmth in the heart, a calm knowing that something small and precious had been made. The finished page was not a monument of power, but a quiet offering, a piece of time, captured gently, meant to be read in the same hush in which it was written. And so we come to the end of our journey, a journey of feather and ink, of patient hands and silent thoughts. The quill, once a simple feather plucked from a bird's wing, had become a vessel of gentle creativity. In its slow curves and careful scratches, it had given voice to the heart's softest musings. Its legacy was not in grand declarations or hurried proclamations, but in the quiet intimacy of a page filled with care. Each word it traced was a reminder that even in a noisy world there is room for stillness. The quill pen, delicate and humble, taught us that the softest touch can leave the deepest mark. That in the hush of a quiet evening, with only a flickering candle and a single feather, we can find a gentle kind of peace. And so, as the quill is laid to rest, let us remember the lessons of its soft invention. To move slowly, to breathe deeply, to cherish the simple art of writing. Thank you for joining me on this quiet journey. May your own evenings be as calm and soothing as the gentle scratch of the quill.